Hello guys and welcome back to Phat Pack Magic, where today we have the FNM Darkside Pioneer event. This has been amazing so far, and on the left we've got Dillon Peterson playing Dredgeless, and on the right Abe Pfeffer playing Rakdos Midrange. Abe is on the play and drops a tapped black-red land, and Dillon follows up with a Blooming Marsh into a Stitcher Supplier, immediately pulling out a Narcomoeba from the yard. A little early because you really want those prized amalgams to go with those Narcomoebas, but still, 2 power on the board for 1 mana, it's okay. But Abe follows up his turn with Stormfist Crusader. Now, a lot of the black-red decks have been going with cards like Glint Sieve Siphoner. However, Stormfist Crusader is going to be able to allow him to draw every turn, not just on turns where he has 2 energy, so usually every other turn. So this might give him a bit of an advantage, but on the same end, it's going to allow Dillon to draw a card every other turn as well. So Dillon comes crashing in for 2 with Narcomoeba and Stitcher Supplier. The Stitcher Supplier, he really wants to hit the yard, and follows up with a untapped Overgrown Tomb into a Satyr Wayfinder, which is going to find a Creeping Chill off the top that's going to deal 3 damage to Abe and gain Dillon 3 life, putting it at 21-15 with Dillon in the lead. Dillon has 3 creatures on board, but Abe is pretty fine for now. He's got a grip full of cards, and he doesn't seem too worried as he takes 1 damage to draw a card and deals 1 damage to Dillon. He draws up some juicy stuff. He's got Kolaghan's Command in hand, so he's not looking too worried. But he follows up his turn with Liliana, the Last Hope, which is going to deal some serious damage against Dillon's field of X1 creatures. Now, Abe looks like he's not going to attack this turn and instead just passes back to Dillon, opting to keep Stormfist Crusader on blocker duty. Dillon draws for turn, plays a Blooming Marsh, and evaluating his hand. He's got a couple of cards that he wants to see in the yard, like that Scrap Heap Scrounger and a prized Amalgam. So now the question is, how does he get there? Dillon really deep in the tank here as he thinks over his options. That Liliana the Last Hope is going to be pretty detrimental against his board, and playing down multiple threats into it doesn't seem to be like the line of play he wants to do. But he crashes in for 2 at Abe, and Abe blocks 1, takes 1, goes down to 13, leaving that Stitcher Supplier alive. But Dillon follows up his turn with Gather the Pack, which is going to allow him to look at the top 5 cards and choose a creature or 2 creatures if he has 2 spells in the yard. But he's going to find a Creeping Chill and a Tasigur, which is going to drain Abe for 3 life, bringing him down to 10 and bringing Dillon back up to a healthy 23. And he's going to follow up that Gather the Pack by chucking away tons of fodder and casting Tasigur the Golden Fang for 1 mana. Tasigur showing that 4/5 body is plenty good, as Abe untaps, draws a card, pays 1 life, and same for Dillon. Now Abe has a Thoughtseize in hand, but that doesn't seem to be like the kind of card you want to use against a card that likes putting stuff in the graveyard. And Abe is deciding how he wants to start off his turn. Now, I think maybe Liliana is pretty good. Unfortunately, killing that Stitcher Supplier is just going to fill more stuff into the yard. But Abe opts for the Thoughtseize. He wants to see what's going on in Dredgeless Dredge. And there is a really interesting card. What? I haven't seen something like this in forever. It is a Decimator of the Provinces. I guess it works to just kind of sacrifice a bunch of dudes, and then it comes into play and will swing for 9? I mean, he can definitely emerge pretty easy off of the Tasigur, but Liliana opts to kill the Stitcher Supplier and mills 3 cards, and Abe swings in for 2, going on the Alpha Strike here against Dillon, bringing him down to 20, showing no fear or no loyalty to that Liliana. Dillon plays his land for turn, and going over his graveyard, he hasn't hit a prized Amalgam yet in the yard, but he's hit 1 Narcomoeba. He's due for some good gas coming up. So he's going to crash in, And Abe is going to Murderous Rider that Tassiger, taking 2 life in the exchange, bringing him down to 5. Abe is dangerously close to be within Creeping Chill territory, and with that Stormfist Crusader just able to really gas up and deal a damage every turn, Abe is on a ticking clock here, and he needs to gain some life fast or deal some damage fast. But Dillon plays a Gather the Pack that's going to find nothing but put a Driven and to Despair into the yard, and follows up his turn with the Scrap Heap Scrounger, which can't block. Abe starts off his turn, untap, upkeep. We're each going to take a life and draw a card. It's not a May ability. It's a you got it ability. Now, next turn, if Dillon can manage to find a Creeping Chill to hit the yard, that's pretty much it for Abe, because he'll be at 1 and then the upkeep will kill him. So he's got to play out that Murderous Rider this turn and start gaining some life back against Dillon's deck. He's going to plus Liliana, giving the Scrap Heap Scrounger -2, -1, making it a very pitiful 1/1 until Abe's next turn. And Abe passes the turn back. Here's Dillon. Still no, very little gas in the yard. And he's got to mount an offensive fast here. Fortunately, his prized Amalgam, he doesn't have the blue to cast it. But he's going to play a Stitcher's Supplier, which is going to mill 3. And those 3 that are milled are basically his mill enablers. Another Stitcher's Apprentice goes into the yard, as does a Gather the Pack. And Dillon is on the back foot here. He needs to gain some advantage bad. He's got a Driven to Despair in the yard, which he can cast and try and even the odds against Abe's chunk of hand. Still, swinging in now against Abe's ability, Abe's 2-3 that's going to gain him life is just not good. They each take a life of damage, and Dillon is at 16, but Abe has found Kalitas. And Kalitas has a very, very, very relevant set of abilities, because anything that dies from play is going to the exile. As Abe shows off with Fatal Push, targeting the Scrap Heap Scrounger, which is going to go into the exile and make Abe a 2/2 token. And then Liliana is going to do her work, putting him to the exile, unfortunately not allowing Dillon to mill the 3 cards from it dying. As Abe crashes in for 4, he's gonna he's crashing in for 4. In response, Dillon is going to Grizzly Salvage, hoping to find a Narcomoeba into there's a prized Amalgam. Does he have the Narcomoeba to go with it? No Narcomoeba, but he gets a Satyr Wayfinder, and he's finally got a prized Amalgam in the yard. And now he's going to take 4 damage to the face. That brings him down to 12. Now, Abe has gained 2 life off this exchange, and he's out of Creeping Chill territory, and Dillon is dangerously close to not being able to come back from this. He's already in a tough spot because all of his Dredge dudes, they're going to start getting exiled. But here's an Narcomoeba. Here's another prized Amalgam. It's been about time. Dillon eagerly casts the Narcomoeba that was going to go to the graveyard, finds the other Amalgam, and those 2 are going to come into play tapped, but eventually he can start maybe wearing down Abe's board. Now, if only he could get that 3rd Amalgam into the yard, but it doesn't seem like he's got much of a discard outlet at the moment. Dillon considering his options before passing the turn back. He's facing down a very, very deadly board. The Murderous Rider, the Stormfist Crusader, the Liliana that's about to ultimate, and he takes 1 damage to draw a card. A lot more painful now that Abe is on the front foot here. Abe plays his land for turn, and he can theoretically do a ton of damage here by sacrificing those zombies. If the zombies get blocked and the Kalitas doesn't, at the very least allowing Abe to gain a ton of life in this exchange. Now, Liliana is at ultimate, but Abe is going to opt to kill the Narcomoeba, which is going to send it into exile and make another 2/2 zombie token. He might be being a little bit greedy here by not just ultimating, but I think the zombie token is fine. Dillon. There would have to be a very disgusting set of turns where everything goes wrong for Abe for Dillon to get back in this game, because right now Dillon is crashing in for 2, 5, 7, 9, 11 damage Exactsies here at Dillon's face, and he's only got one blocker to stymie the bleeding. So he's going to put one in front of Kalidas, and he's still going to take 8 points of damage here. And Abe deciding on whether or not he wants to cast something. Maybe blockers have already been declared. So killing that won't do anything. He could do 2 damage to Dillon's face. He says, alright, you know what? I'm just going to gain 5 life instead. You're going to take 8. You go down to 3. And Dillon packs up the game from that. There's no way, he says, there's no way I can come back from this. But we're going to come back here in just a second after a moment from our sponsors. Hey guys, I want to give a quick shout out here to Your Playmat. These guys offer fully customizable playmats, card sleeves, and foil playmats. Now, I wouldn't be talking to you guys about these mats unless I personally believed in them. So check this out. Yeah. That is the Mox Jet altar on the Phat Pack Magic draft videos, and we put that on a mat. And here's the best part. Your Playmat believes in me and believes in my channel, and therefore believes in you guys. So that's why they're doing a special discount code only for Phat Pack Magic YouTube subscribers. Put in the code PPM15 and get 15% off any playmat you order. Foil, regular, anything you're looking for. PPM 15. So what are you guys waiting for? Go make your own mats and show off your style. And we are back. Dillon is on the mold to 5 here, and he is making his choices at the moment, trying to figure out what he can put back without detrimenting his own hand. And the thing for the Dredgeless deck is that it's okay as long as he can find enough cantrip kind of cards that'll put stuff in the yard for him to get some advantage going. Dillon is going to start off on the play, and he's going to take 2 from an Overgrown Tomb tapped into a Stitcher's Apprentice, which is pretty... What? Alright, Narcomoeba into a Prized Amalgam on turn 1. That's a great way to start. 5 power on the board against Abe, and Abe is going to have to try and mount some kind of offensive against this. Turn 2, Abe has nothing in hand to try and clear out the board. And Dillon is evaluating his position. Does he want to go deeper? Takes 2, down to 16, Watery Grave, and he's going to cast Driven, which is going to allow him to draw 3 cards off of an uncontested board as he crashes in. But a Fatal Push is going to kill it off an Narcomoeba, but even still, that is 2 cards that Dillon's going to be able to draw and start mounting away from that very, very painful mulligan down to 5. But Abe is going to start with the Legion's End, killing off that Stitcher's Supplier, giving it an exile, and revealing what Dillon has in hand. And if anything that has the same name as Stitcher's Supplier is exiled, then it's exiled as well. Unfortunately, no Stitcher's Supplier, but he's still not going to get an advantage off of that milling with 3. So Dillon, unfortunately, left with only a single Prized Amalgam in play. What a shame. And following on to turn 3. But he's got a lot of juice here. Question is, how does he want to start it off? He's got another Amalgam in hand. He's got an Assassin's Trophy in case of Liliana, or something really dangerous like Kalidas affecting his yard. But he's just going to crash in, bringing Abe down to 13 already, and following up his play with the Narcomoeba. Abe draws for turn. And it doesn't look like he has much of an offensive here. What would be really great would be a Liliana. Abe deciding on... He's going to start with a Legion's End against that Narcomoeba, giving him the exile, and let me see what you drew this turn. It's another set of Graveyard Enablers with Driven, Assassin's Trophy, Amalgam, but no land to play that third Amalgam off of. But Dillon has found a Gather the Pack, and is he going to fire it off this turn? No, he's going to crash in for Abe first, bring him down to 10, and then go for the Gather the Pack, which unfortunately isn't going to trigger because he doesn't have 2 spells in the yard. And it's going to find a Stitcher Supplier, which is fine. The rest going to the bin, just as fuel for the Tasigur fodder. And Dillon passes it back, missing another land drop. But Abe has found a Murderous Rider in hand, which is going to be able to take care of that Amalgam. And another missed land drop for Dillon. He is stuck on 2 lands. Now, unfortunately, Dredgeless Dredge isn't as immune to nuked land drops as its inspiration, but oh wait, no, he didn't. Nope. Here we go. Stitcher Supplier milling the top 3 and milling 3 lands. And Abe is going to be able to bring back that Murderous Rider and start the lifelink gain train coming. Here we go. Murderous Rider into play. Its adventure is done. And Dillon again without a land drop. And he just got really lucky and really hosed on that Stitcher Supplier. But he's going to Driven to Despair, hoping to kill off that Stitcher Supplier by making it block. And Abe is just going to say, nope, I'm going to take 1 life and discard a Swamp. Abe draws for turn, crashes in for 2, slowly equalizing the life totals by bringing Dillon down to 14 and bringing himself up to 9. But he doesn't have a follow-up play for this turn. Both of the players seem to be flooded or locked on lands. Abe has a Kolaghan's Command in hand, which isn't too bad, but he doesn't really have a lot of targets for it. Dillon's going to play a Gather the Pack. He's going to find land, Amalgam, Tasigur, and that Decimator of the Provisions, which hasn't really been doing anything. But it's going to put another Amalgam into his yard, which is important. And he's going to be able to play off that Tasigur really easily. Now, this time he's going to be able to get 2 cards because the Gather the Pack does have Delirium. So he's got the Decimator and the Tasigur. But still without a land. Now, if he has more than 7 cards in hand, he might be able to discard down to hand side, which he does. Pitching the Haunted Dead, which is going to be able to come back. Wait, is he pitching down to hand size? Yes, he's going to be discarding down to hand size. Now, next turn, it's going to be able to come back, and Dillon's going to be able to discard 2 cards, which will bring back that prized Amalgam, both of them in the yard. Now, Abe has to start mounting an offensive, swings in, the block prevents the damage, and it's going to mill 3, and there's a Narcomoeba, which is going to do it this turn, bringing back those Amalgams. Wow. 1 and 2. Unfortunately, the third one is trapped in Dillon's hand. But Abe drops the Stormfist Crusader, saying, alright, I've got a little bit of an advantage here. Those Amalgams won't do too much against me. And Dillon finally finds a third land. Well, he found a third land and knocked the second one off. But it's back. It's back. He's got 3 lands now. And he's got an Alive Assassin's Trophy. He's also got a Driven if he wants to draw out more cards. I think he's got a fine advantage here at the moment. He could definitely choose to blow out that Murderous Rider and prevent the lifelink game from bringing him down too hard. But he's got one heck of an advantage here. But instead he's going to go to Driven. Creatures he controls is going to be able to draw a card. And Abe is not too happy about that. He's the mid-range control deck. He should be the one gaining advantage. And he's going to deal 2 damage to the Narcomoeba and make Dillon discard a card. Dillon discarding the Haunted dread over the prized amalgam, it seems. And he's going to draw 2 cards off that exchange. Now, Dillon is definitely in the driver's seat here. And he's going to follow up his turn with a Tasigur. It's going to have a lot of fodder to be able to come down for 1 black mana. And there it is, Tasigur. Dillon is at 10 power on board, and Abe needs to draw something good, and he needs to draw it quick. He's going to take 1 life off this exchange, bring him down to 13-6, and there's Kalidas, which is definitely something that you want against Dillon's board. He's going to scry off his red-black scry land, sees a Chandra, which is pretty fine, but he's going to scoop. I mean, I guess Dillon had the Assassin's Trophy in hand, which would have killed the Kalidas, but I think Abe kind of gave up on that one a little early. But you know what? I think he definitely was like, you know what? There's not much of a win that I can go in this game. I'm going to let him have it and not show him off some of the tech that I'm going. But here we are. We're going to roll into Game 3 in just a minute, and here we go. They've shuffled up. They're cutting. Abe is going to be on the play. The match is tied 1-1, and we are going into Game 3. Now, Abe's hand looks like a good start. He's got lands, he's got a Fatal Push, he's got some action going. But Dillon in Game 1 was just so ready and so able to pull off that turn 1 prized amalgam with the Narcomoeba. That was just insane. So Abe scries to the bottom and says, I'm good. Dillon starts off with another Stitcher's Apprentice. Mill 1, 2, 3. No amalgam, but he's got a Haunted Dead in the yard, which is going to be able to start triggering off those amalgams later. Abe plays another land tapped and passes the turn back. Dillon draws. He's got a Narcomoeba in hand, which isn't something that he wants to see. But he crashes in for 1, bringing Abe down to 19. It's not about the damage, it's about sending a message. Abe draws, and it's another land for turn. Plays a land tapped, and plays out that Stormfist Crusader. Unfortunately, those check lands aren't doing a lot of work for him at the moment because he doesn't have much going on. But a Grizzly Salvage is going to see a prized amalgam go to the yard and probably nab Dillon a very valuable land. He doesn't have a lot of blue sources, so that Watery Grave is going to be really potent here. And he's got 1 amalgam in the yard and a way to bring it back with that Haunted Dead. Dillon draws for turn, and he finds a Gather the Pack. Now the main thing he just wants more stuff in the yard. That's it. So he's going to play another Stitcher Supplier, which is going to mill 1, 2, 3. Unfortunately, no amalgam again. Dillon kind of going through his hand. Now he's going to reveal that Watery Grave, going down to 18. Play 2, Gather the Pack, milling another 5. 1, 2, amalgam, 3, 4, 5. Now he's going to get that Decimator back as it's the only option. Well, aside from the amalgam, but he wants the amalgams in the yard. And next turn, he'll be able to bring back 2 amalgams and a Haunted Dead, which is going to put him at 8 power plus 2, 10 power on the board. And Abe draws, loses 1 life. So does Dillon, 18-17 all. And plays Castle Lochthwain, which is pretty fine. I mean, he's going to have a ton of cards, so it's going to be a while before that actually goes off. But unfortunately, he doesn't have any swamp type to be able to make it come into play untapped. And he crashes in for 2. Dillon doesn't take the bluff, goes down to 15. Does Dillon want the card draw, or does he want more cards in the yard? Dillon draws for turn. Abe stuck on place. He's got a Bone Crusher Giant, which will be able to do 2 damage to something. Fortunately, 2 damage is not 3, as Dillon comes crashing in for 2, bringing it down to 16. Taps 2. Here's a Gather the Pack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And he reveals Tassigur and the Decimator of the Provisions, which we've seen so often, but we've never seen it played out. And Dillon passes the turn back, and Abe decides this is where he's going to start making the stand, dealing 2 damage to the Citrus Supplier, which is going to mill stuff. There he goes. 1, Haunted Dead, Creeping Chill, and another Amalgam. So the Creeping Chill is going to deal 3 damage to Abe and gain Dillon 3 life, bringing it back to 18 to 13. And more importantly, 3 Amalgams in the yard is incredibly dangerous. Abe is going to need to really get some stuff here on board. But Abe likes to live dangerously, and he's going to Fatal Push the other Stitchers. 1, 2, Creeping Chill, Narcomoeba. Wow! The Creeping Chill is going to bring Abe down to 10, gaining Dillon 3 life. The Narcomoeba is going to bring back 1, 2, 3 Amalgams. Now, unfortunately, this is at the end of turn step for Dillon's turn. So the end of turn on Abe's turn is when the Amalgams are going to come back into play. But Abe is going to take another point of damage here. And, man. Oh, God. Abe is in real trouble. He needs to mount a big defense and quick against those 3 Amalgams. Kalidas would be great here. But he's going to crash in for 2 against Dillon, dealing him down to 18. Now the question is, does Abe have a way to get out of this triple Amalgam? With a flying Narcomoeba, no less. Abe can play out that Bone Crusher Giant, which would be a fine 4/3 blocker against it. But he is 1 mana short of being able to cast 2 spells. And he goes to end of turn. The 3 Amalgams come into play tapped. Dillon, on the end of turn step, decides to discard 2 cards, Narcomoeba and a Driven to Despair. And that's going to bring back the Haunted Dead, which gets a 1/1 Flying Spirit token into play. Dillon untaps. Here's 9, 10, 11, 12 power on the board against Abe. This looks like more than lethal, as Abe only has a Murderous Rider to back up his defenses. Dillon comes crashing in. Here's 12 damage at your face. Abe's like, alright. I mean, he's got Murderous Rider, so here's Murderous Rider to kill your prized Amalgam. I was like, yeah, sure, yeah, that's fine, whatever. He takes 2 off that exchange. So he's mitigating 1 life of damage. Let's see. Well, I guess I'll Fatal Push your Narcomoeba. And I was like, yeah, sure, that's fine. And it's still lethal as Abe goes down. And wow, man, that Fatal Push on that Stitcher Supplier was just the worst combination of cards that he could have seen. A Creeping Chill and a Narcomoeba to bring back the Amalgams for lethal on the next turn. But that's it for us this time on Phat Pack Magic. But stay tuned because we got more Pioneer coming up. And if you want, check us out on Instagram. Hit that notification bell. Subscribe to us. And if you want to support the channel, check out the links in the description. But until next time, may all your packs be fat.